Is your fertility treatment going well? Oh, but there's no point for you anymore since you don't even have a partner, huh? At the company's anniversary party, those harsh words were directed at me by Ethan, my ex-husband, who looked down on me as infertile after having a child with his mistress, and unilaterally breaking up with me. That's quite something to say, considering we've broken up.
Ah.
Is this the infamous barren lady? Yes, it's her. The aunt who couldn't fulfill her role as a woman, my ex-wife. They both looked at me and burst into laughter. If that's how they were going to behave, I had my own thoughts. How about you? How's everything going with the company? Of course it's going well. It's me, after all. Really? Well, that might change starting tomorrow. What? What do you mean? As I tilted my head, I revealed the truth to my puzzled ex-husband. His face turned pale instantly. My name is Kate Anderson. I work at a cosmetics manufacturer. I married Ethan when I was 32 years old. By societal standards, that might be considered late. The main reason I didn't get married until I was 32 was because of my overcommitment to work. I started my current job right after graduating from university at the age of 22. Back then, I was desperate to be recognized quickly. I've always been competitive, and I think my ambition was exceptionally high compared to others. I volunteered for big projects and worked tirelessly. That was my vitality for living. I often traveled across the country for work, leaving me no time to play. Working from morning until midnight, and there were years I don't even remember taking a break. Some might think it sounds like a toxic company, but I loved my job and never felt burdened by it. However, the surrounding voices, feigning concern, were critical of me. People who live for work seem to have no fun. Don't you want to get married soon? You won't be able to have children if you wait too long. I was honestly fed up. Everyone has their own values, so I wish they would just leave me alone. Arguing back would only lead to more nagging. Whenever this kind of conversation came up, I would just give a wry smile and quickly leave the scene. Having dedicated most of my life to it, I reached a significant position in the company at a young age. Finally, I could start taking regular breaks, and my personal life began to have some room to breathe. By then, I was already 32 years old, and it had been 15 years since I last had a boyfriend. I didn't have a strong desire to marry, but the thought of being single for life was sad. I hoped to find a good partner somewhere deep down. And then I met Ethan. We both enjoyed reading and met at an autograph event for a popular author. The autograph event was crowded, resulting in a long wait. Perhaps bored during the wait, Ethan, who was standing behind me, struck up a conversation. It's quite a wait, isn't it? Do you often come to these signings?
Yeah.
It's been about 30 minutes already. This is my first time at an autograph event. I just happened to be off work. Same here. It's also my first time. By the way, which novel do you like the most? I guess I like this one the most. Me too. It's my favorite novel. Ethan's eyes sparkled as he spoke. In this way, we hit it off, exclaiming, that line was moving. And the ending was unexpected, making our conversation very lively. As we talked, my turn came quickly. After we both got our autographs, Ethan said as we were about to leave, I really enjoyed talking with you today. Could you give me your contact details, if that's okay? Thinking it was some sort of a fate, I happily agreed, and we made plans to meet again. Our first date was very engaging, and we had a truly enjoyable time. As we continued to date, I began to see more of Ethan's personality. He was 5 years younger than me. He worked as a salesperson at the same cosmetics manufacturer as me. He wanted to keep work and private life separate, preferring not to talk about work in his free time. I agreed with this sentiment. It was nice to have a common hobby, but we were both only children. Had been without significant others for a long time. And had similar ways of thinking, which made us feel close to each other. Gradually, I felt at ease being with Ethan. He was a bit absent-minded and often forgot things, but I found these traits endearingly youthful. For me, who had no time to date before, going out with Ethan was a fresh and fun experience. I was quite thrilled about this new romance. About 6 months after meeting Ethan, he said, "I'd like you to meet my parents sometime." What? I want to marry you, Kate. Is that okay? Though taken aback by the suddenness, I loved Ethan and saw no reason to refuse. Things progressed smoothly, and I met his parents. You are really beautiful. I never thought the day would come when Ethan would introduce a girlfriend. He must really like you. It's nice to see Ethan so happy. We look forward to being with you. I was praised so much by his kind parents that I was both happy and embarrassed. Blushing throughout the encounter. Ethan proudly said next to me. She doesn't look 5 years older than me, does she? She's a real witch. Although it sounded slightly rude, Ethan meant it as a compliment. I was relieved that the meeting with the parents went smoothly. Life with Ethan was ordinary and calm. However, change was on the horizon for us. Kate, don't you want kids? My husband, aware that I was already 35, hesitated a bit before bringing it up. Children. Of course, I don't dislike children, and I do want to be a mother. However, at this age, the risks associated with pregnancy after 30 are reportedly high. As I struggled to find the right words, my husband, looking anxious, said, "Is it a no?" Of course, your health comes first. If you think it's too much, we can stop right away. He then rustled through his bag and pulled out a bunch of brochures from various fertility clinics. Usually, he isn't one to research things, but it seemed he really wanted a child. He had carefully selected the information, considering my situation. Seeing him like this made me feel that I wanted to have a child for him, for us. No, it's not bad. Let's start trying to conceive. Really? Thank you. Let's give it our best. The following week, we went to the hospital for a thorough checkup. The results would be told later, leaving us with a week of anxious waiting. Finally, the day came to learn the results. I'm mostly fine, it seems. They just told me to get a rubella vaccination. I see. I have polycystic ovary syndrome. What's that? It means I have more eggs than other people. It makes ovulation difficult and conception challenging. My husband's demeanor visibly sank, and he was at a loss for words. Seeing him like this, I quickly reassured him. But you know. This condition is common. They told me that with hormone treatment to make it easier to conceive. There's a good chance of getting pregnant. That's great. So, we start the treatment now. Though I felt a bit down about being told I have difficulty ovulating. Hearing that pregnancy was still possible was reassuring. Thus, we began hormone therapy and officially started our journey to conceive. Despite our age, we initially tried timing methods several times. Planning to move on to artificial insemination or IVF if those failed. However, even after months of following the doctor's timing advice, I wasn't getting pregnant. What could be wrong? It can't be helped. Becoming discouraged is the worst thing. Let's take it slow, no need to rush. You're right. At first, he was encouraging and actively helped with hospital visits. But after half a year, things began to change. The in-laws started saying they wanted to see a grandchild. It all started with a phone call from my mother-in-law. "Hey, Kate, I don't mean to be rude, but you're over 30, aren't you? Are you seriously thinking about children? We've started fertility treatments, but it's not going so well." "Oh, I see. I apologize if I'm being rude. But Ethan has always been lonely as an only child, and he said he needs at least 2 children. For his sake, and ours, please try your best." With that, the call ended. I wish she understood the difficulty of even having 1 child, let alone more. Even so, the pressure didn't stop there. Each month, the appeals from my mother-in-law continued. Alone, I would let out a deep sigh. I discussed it with Ethan, mentioning the pressure from his mother to have grandchildren. But he just laughed it off. "Moms like that, huh? Well, can't be helped. You're getting on in age, so she's probably worried. If we have a kid soon, that'll solve it, huh?" His words, though likely without malice, pierced my heart. Still, we kept trying to conceive for a while, but there was no sign of pregnancy. Gradually, Ethan seemed to lose interest. He used to come home early for our fertility efforts, claiming overtime now, and came home late. We had agreed to limit our alcohol intake, but he soon broke that promise too. Moreover, perhaps thinking it pointless if I couldn't get pregnant, our intimate moments significantly decreased, making the environment for conceiving virtually non-existent, and we fell into a vicious cycle. Still, I couldn't give up on having a child. So I decided to do what I could until Ethan was ready to cooperate again. Starting to prepare my body for pregnancy. Every morning, I drank warm water to warm up my body, took folic acid supplements, exercised moderately, and paid attention to my diet. The fertility clinic had given me some timing instructions, saying, "Come after your next period ends," so I continued visiting alone without fail. Then, the doctor said, "We'd like to move to the next stage. So could you both come to the hospital next time? Would Ethan come with me?" Feeling a bit anxious, I decided to consult with him. "Hey, Ethan. The doctor wants us to move to the next step, so we both need to come in for an explanation." "The next step?" "It's time for artificial insemination. Your mom wants a grandchild, and I'm not getting any younger. The doctor thinks we should go ahead with it. The sooner, the better. So, can you come with me next time?" "Huh, do I really have to go?" Sounds like a hassle. Did he just say it was a hassle? All he has to do is listen, while I go through surgeries and injections. That's awful. Also, it would be nice if he told his mother to stop pressuring us for grandchildren. If that were the case, it might relieve some of my stress. Overwhelmed by anger, I couldn't figure out where to start speaking and fell silent with a sullen expression. Noticing this, Ethan tried to appease me. "Joe, it's just a joke, don't be mad. I'll think about the dates again." However, days passed, and Ethan never seemed to consider a date for the hospital visit. Whenever I suggested a date, he found reasons to refuse to go. "Do you really want children? After showing so much desire, why refuse all of a sudden?" Feeling nearly crushed by anxiety, I decided we needed to talk. "Are you planning to give up on trying for a child?" Ethan pondered a bit with his arms crossed and then casually said, "Well,
Yeah.
honestly, work is so busy right now, I can't focus on that. Sorry, but can we just stop trying for a baby for now?" His nonchalant response left me unable to stay silent. Were all the money we spend on fertility treatments and the pain I endured to be in vain? Are we giving up so soon? Don't we have limited time? I had so much more to say. But I'm already 35, you know? The older I get, the higher the risks of pregnancy and childbirth. And your mother keeps calling, what should I do? I told him all this rapidly, driven by my anger. What's with you, Kate? You're rushing too much. Just ignore my mom. Anyway, let's just stop for now. Are you really quitting after all our efforts? What can I do? Besides, it's your infertility that's the problem, right? If you weren't infertile, we would probably have kids by now and my mom would be relieved. As he started to walk away, dismissing me as infertile, I called out in desperation. Wait, just a minute. Then he said, what? Are you frustrated? Since when did you become so persistent? Oh, right. There are popular brothels for women these days. If you're frustrated, go let it out there. I won't get mad. With those derogatory words, he walked away. Tears rolled down my cheeks from frustration and irritation. Being spoken to like that, how can I ever bring up a trying for a baby or a children again? Eventually, our efforts to conceive naturally came to an end. Calls from my mother-in-law continued asking, how about grandchildren, but I just deflected and avoided the topic. Eventually, she stopped calling. She probably gave up. The topic of children naturally became taboo between Ethan and me, and we stopped discussing it. The end of our efforts to conceive changed the dynamic between my husband and me. He became distant and seemed disinterested in me. Hey, why have you become so cold? One day I asked him this, and he responded with shocking words. I'm busy with a new job, remember? I told you before. What? A new job? You didn't tell me.
Oh.
Maybe I just mentioned being busy. The news of Ethan's job change surprised me. I had no idea he had changed jobs. Since before our marriage. We agreed to completely separate private life from work, so we never bring up work at home. Still, couldn't he have consulted me a little about it? That's honestly what I thought. But being married doesn't mean we have to share everything, and fortunately, we don't have kids. We keep our finances completely separate, so there's no real change in my daily life. I decided it was okay. Though I was curious about where Ethan's new job was and whether his salary had changed. I chose not to ask. I thought it was better for both of us not to know. However, I didn't realize this job change would lead to an unexpected situation. That would become clear only later. Time passed. One day, as I went to work, the HR director approached me. Isn't this your husband? He asked. Looking at the resume, I saw a photo of Ethan with his hair perfectly styled and a determined look. That's definitely my husband. He's been working at the LA branch for a little while. Did you refer him to this company? No, not at all. I heard he had changed jobs, but I had no idea it was to our company. He was at a different branch and in a different job role, and I knew no one at Ethan's branch. Our company employs 3,000 people nationwide. Unless someone works at the same branch, it's surprisingly easy to remain unaware of new hires. I happened to find out about Ethan's employment due to my position, but he likely had no idea. It was surprising to learn this. But thinking about it, it's not strange for him to end up at our company. A major cosmetics manufacturer in our area, considering we both work in the same industry. There's something concerning about him that I need to discuss. Listening to the director, I couldn't believe my ears. My husband did that? Aren't you going to talk to him? For now, please keep it a secret from people at the same branch as my husband. I don't want them to feel awkward. Understood. I asked the HR director to keep my husband's employment confidential. I planned to discuss it with Ethan when I got home. With that thought, I returned home. When I arrived, Ethan hadn't come back yet. It was 8 p.m. He's late. While waiting for Ethan to come home, a message from him arrived. Got a welcome party today, so I'll be late. I sighed and replied, okay. I waited for a while, but Ethan didn't come home until about 4 a.m. the next morning. In the end, I couldn't talk about work. The following day, and the day after, Ethan returned home late. And there was never a good time to talk about his job. Moreover, ever since Ethan transferred to my company, his returns home have become extremely late. He says he's working overtime every day, and often doesn't come home on weekends because of business trips. Is his branch really that busy? Even on the rare occasions we are both home, Ethan seems indifferent. Have you been busy lately? Sort of. What's for dinner, was his response. Ethan's attitude seemed arrogant. No matter what I say, his replies are always non-committal, like, or, oh really? I never got the chance to bring up the workplace conversation. Then, one day, Ethan said, we need to talk. I was initially happy to be approached by him after so long. But from his expression, it didn't seem to be good news. My girlfriend is pregnant. I want a divorce. What? My mind went blank. What do you mean? I got someone pregnant at my new job. She's much younger and cuter than you. I even told my mom about her, and she was happy, thinking maybe now I'd have a child. This has to be a joke. Did his mother know? Is that why the calls stopped? I had suspected Ethan's recent behavior was odd. But I never imagined he was actually having an affair. And it hasn't even been a year since he changed jobs. He had an affair and made a child in such a short time? I can't believe it. Since when? About a month after I joined the company. She was a new employee, and I was hired at the same time, so we hit it off. If Ethan started dating her about a month after joining, that coincides with when he suggested we stop trying for a child. I thought it was strange to suddenly stop trying for a child when he had wanted one so badly. But I never imagined he was seeing someone else. I was speechless and just stood there. Here, this is the divorce papers. He handed me the divorce papers unilaterally. Fine, let's get divorced. Glad you're being quick about it. Don't worry about the compensation, I'll pay you a fair amount. Although I was disgusted by his condescending tone, I wasn't struggling financially. So I refused the compensation. I just wanted to get away from him as quickly as possible. Thus, our divorce was settled without any issues. I wonder what all those years together were even for. It ended so abruptly. 3 days after the divorce was finalized, I moved out of the house and stayed in a hotel until I found a new place. Ethan apparently started living there with his mistress. 2 weeks have passed. While my heart has not yet healed, I found a new place and am ready to start anew just as. My company's anniversary party was about to take place. When I arrived at the venue, it was crowded, and I wandered around looking for my seat. Then, a familiar figure approached me with wide eyes. Huh? What are you doing here? It was my ex-husband, Ethan. Next to him stood a pretty young woman in her early 20s, with a noticeable bump in her belly. Who is this? She asked, tugging at Ethan's clothes. From her behavior, I immediately knew she was the mistress. Ethan, unaware that I worked at the same company, seemed very surprised to see me there.
Oh.
I didn't tell you. The place you transferred to is where I work. Huh. Why didn't you say anything? You didn't tell me you were changing jobs either. You didn't even tell me the name of the company, right? I replied calmly. Whatever. It's disgusting to think I'm working at the same company as you. I thought I was finally rid of you. I'm more disappointed that we ended up at the same company. You should just quit your job, huh? You're single anyway. You could manage without a job. I have a family to think about, I can't quit. In front of his girlfriend, Ethan was overly aggressive with his words. Seeing this, his mistress chimed in. A stalker? Scary. No, I was here first, so if anyone's the stalker, it's Ethan, I thought to myself, but held back. It seems Ethan's mistress is quite the fool. Man, I'm still shocked. To think I have to see your face again. Good thing we're at different branches. I couldn't stand bad rumors. I didn't want to see your face either. If there are any strange rumors, it's because of what you did, right? Annoyed by hitting too close to home, Ethan frowned. By the way, how's the fertility treatment going? Oh, right, there's no point in you continuing without a husband. Oh.
Oh.
Ethan told me. His wife is a barren old hag. The two of them looked at me and started laughing. Apparently, they still haven't realized the position they are in. I sighed and asked, how about you? Everything going well? What are you talking about? Work? Personal life? As you can see, I'm doing great. Unlike you, Ethan replied with an obnoxious smirk. The foolish woman cheered, Ethan, you're so cool. Both of them seem to live in a fantasy world. And I can't help but laugh because they really do deserve each other. Thinking that I was married to such a man and lost to such a woman makes me feel pathetic. Oh, things are going well? But that might not be the case starting next month. I said this with a sly smile. My ex-husband looked startled. What do you mean? Well, it's my turn next. Ignoring my puzzled ex-husband, I stood up and walked towards the stage. Seeing me start to walk, the employee hosting the event said, next, we will have a speech from Executive Director Suzuki. I took the microphone and began my speech. My ex-husband and his mistress stood frozen, watching the whole process. Learning that I am an executive director of the company, Ethan seemed to panic. Even from a distance, I could tell from his lips moving that he was saying, this is bad. In fact, I have been serving as an executive director at this company for the last 6 months. Thanks to everyone. Our company will celebrate its 30th anniversary on the specified date. After reading the speech I had prepared in advance, I finished my duties for the day. Now, it was finally time for my revenge. After I finished my speech, Ethan rushed over to me. With his mistress of course following closely behind. You are an executive director? Yes, that's right. I was promoted half a year ago. There was a personnel announcement, but you didn't see it? That's ridiculous. I just joined, and I haven't had any transfers. So why would I look at personnel announcements? Apparently, he hadn't bothered to check because he didn't expect any transfers. He didn't even remember the names of his own company's executives. It's really astonishing. Well, you should start looking at them because you're going to be transferred. Huh? He stared at me, dumbfounded. You seem to be quite disliked at the branch you work at. I've received numerous complaints from many staff members. What do you mean? Seeming to realize what this might entail, Ethan started to fumble. Let me read some of the complaints. Let's see. He makes a lot of sexual harassment comments that are uncomfortable. He jokingly touched my butt. He says he's going out but then goes to lunch with female employees and doesn't return. Claims entertainment expenses for large sums spent at nightclubs. Pushes hard tasks onto others, has an arrogant attitude, and the list goes on. I had been briefed by the HR director beforehand, so I read these comments from my smartphone. Ethan, hearing this, turned pale and trembled. Given all this information, I really have to consider disciplinary action, don't I? But, that's... Ethan, did you really do those things? His mistress, apparently unaware, was shocked. While she looked on, Ethan tried to come up with an excuse but only managed to stutter. Well, that's why your transfer has been arranged. You're moving to the Korea branch next month. Korea? You can't be serious? Both were shocked by the unexpected overseas assignment. Our company's Korea branch is a new and challenging office where a lot of hard work is required. The Korea branch has many staff, and without speaking some Korean, it will be hard to communicate with locals. This is well known within the company. Well, someone who doesn't even remember the name of their own company's executive director might not be aware of this. It's a kind of demotion, really. However, if he performs well there, a promotion could be considered. It's a high-risk, high-return scenario. But for a soon-to-be father and his new wife, it will be a tough choice. It's true. Do your best, okay? Please, we were married, remember? You're an executive director, right? You can fix this, can't you? Please, I apologize for everything up to now. You know, don't you? I'm having his child, please forgive Ethan. I can't raise it alone. Despite their earlier confidence, both my ex-husband and his mistress were now tearfully begging me to change their situation. However, I had no intention of forgiving them after all the apologies. If they hadn't behaved so terribly earlier, I might have considered different arrangements for the sake of their unborn child. But given their horrible attitudes, I decided not to change their treatment. I've thought about this a lot. I was betrayed by Ethan and wondered if I should forgive him. I wanted to reconsider his situation for the sake of the child, but I've decided against it. Thanks for making my decision easier. This can't be. Unable to stand there any longer, my ex-husband collapsed. Ignoring the pleading looks of my ex-husband and his mistress, I left the scene. Later, the transfer of my ex-husband to the Korea branch was officially announced. He struggled with the decision to move to Korea, but eventually, he chose to resign on his own. He couldn't leave his child and new wife behind in the US. Ultimately, Ethan, who had just changed jobs, ended up resigning and became unemployed. He now lives in a cheap apartment and works multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. As for me, work is my lover now. I think about dating again sometime, but it doesn't seem like I'll have time for that anytime soon. But honestly, I enjoy being immersed in my work.